Hello everyone, this begins our planning and decision making in chess, which is based on strategic and positional elements. Our primary goal is to checkmate, of course, but usually you have to win material before you can do that. And if you can't win material, then you have to gain a strategic or positional advantage, which will allow tactics to emerge, which will allow you to win material and then checkmate the king. You need to get out of the mentality of waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. By gaining a strategic advantage, you will have an unstoppable attack, whether your opponent sees it or not. So what are these unseen forces that allow masters to mop the floor with weaker players? To gain any advantage in chess, you need the winning formula, which is when you can coordinate your pieces for an attack or mission before your opponent can coordinate his for an equal or better counterattack or defense. And you do this with an advantage in time, which really is to have the initiative, which you can use to gain space or a force advantage. They're all interrelated, which is similar to having a lead in development or a force majority, either in the opening or at any time during the game, somewhere on the board. 2. A spatial advantage, especially in the center, or on the queen side or king side. When you have a space advantage, your opponent's pieces are more cramped, and your pieces will be more able to launch an attack that your opponent won't be able to stop. 3. A force majority. When you have a force majority anywhere on the board, which is 2 against 1 or 3 against 2, or what I call a gang attack, you should be able to launch a successful attack that wins material or gain some other positional advantage or strategic goal. 4. Gaining a superior pawn structure. This is a vast area, but it includes backward pawns, doubled pawns, isolated pawns, hanging pawns, which I'll be doing videos on later. 5. Piece activity and piece mobility. You should always be comparing the relative mobility of each of the pieces. One more active piece than your opponent is enough to win a game. So don't fall behind in development or allow your opponent greater activity somewhere on the board than you have, unless you're gaining a more important advantage somewhere else on the board. 6. Rook activity. Unite your rooks. Put them on open files. Double them on open files. Put them on the 7th rank. Double them on the 7th rank. Just one rook controlling an open file is enough to win the game. Enough said. Number 7. Gaining the bishop pair. The middle game is a battle between the minor pieces, between knights and bishops. 2 bishops against your opponent's knight and bishop, or 2 knights, is almost always a decisive advantage. Or a bishop against a knight in the endgame where there are pawns on all sides of the board. Of course, if the position is closed and there are pawns preventing the mobility of the bishops, and knights have good outposts in your territory, then knights are superior. Since pawns dictate the mobility of the pieces, try to position them in such a way to create a superior minor piece environment. I'll be giving examples of this in upcoming videos. Number 8. Controlling key files and diagonals and sometimes ranks will allow your pieces to penetrate enemy territory and launch an attack to win material, or even mate the king. Number 9. Take advantage of weak squares in your enemy's territory, or try to create weak squares in his territory, and try to prevent creating your own. A weak square is a square that can no longer be guarded by pawns. This will allow a piece to occupy that square that can't be chased away by a pawn. A piece like that in your territory, especially when it coordinates with another piece, is often enough to create an unstoppable attack. Goal number 10. A queenside pawn majority. This is usually a 3 against 2 situation, and is often a decisive advantage. See the video in the Grandmaster playlist where Wesley So uses this advantage to win the game. 11. Relative king safety. You should always be aware of how safe your king is, which is why we often castle early, and at the right time create Luft for the king on the castle side so the king can escape, to remove the back rank weakness which is inherent in all games until Luft is created. This requires one full tempo, or a whole move, which is why many players put it off, and sometimes at their own peril. Goal number 12. Penetrate enemy territory. When you pass the 4th rank as white or the 5th rank as black, you're closer to many more pawn targets and you can start creating threats against the king. This is a very dangerous situation, so try to slip through battle lines and eject the men that come into your territory. Goal number 13 is a very advanced concept. It's looking for opportunities to create superior compensation by engaging in exchange or positional sacrifices, which is to give your rook for a minor piece, or even a piece or a pawn, to gain an attack or the possibility to launch one. I'll be showing examples of these in upcoming videos. In upcoming videos, we'll be looking at games that illustrate each of these strategic elements. This will improve your ability to evaluate the chessboard and know what matters most at any point during the game. Your plans have to be based on the strategic advantages in the position. Coming up with the right moves to implement that plan is another matter entirely, but at least you'll know what you should be aiming for. If you got something out of this, subscribe and thumbs up, and talk to you later.